Hello, everybody. Welcome to mine and Becky's new podcast called
Ideas to Income.
Ideas to Income. It's a podcast basically off of the idea of I'm an MBA student, and we had a project where we had to interview C-level people from different companies, and it was something that was really interesting to me, so I decided to just keep doing it. And as I was doing it, I was learning more and more of the world of small business that I wanted to kind of record it. This is really mainly for myself, but I decided, what the heck, I'll just make it into a podcast. And so we traveled to Colorado to do a softball first interview.
It was a nice trip. Got to see people that we liked, but we also got to do this really cool interview and learned stuff.
Yeah. So it was a softball interview. I didn't know if this was going to really be any good. So I asked my brother if he would do it. He's one of the owners of Buzz Electric in Colorado. And so I asked him if he would let me interview him, and he said sure. And so we went down to his office, and he had a big conference room. It was kind of echoey. You'll hear it in the interview itself. But we did the recording, and I learned a little bit about my brother.
I learned a lot about him and things that I didn't know about him. I saw a different side of him.
Yeah.
And I learned from him what he does and how important he is to the community.
Yeah.
I learned those things.
That was one thing that I realized is that my family doesn't really talk about what they do for a living. And so sitting down and asking him questions, I actually learned what he does every day, which was kind of interesting.
Well, I hear him talk about how much living in Grand Junction in that area and how much you say you say Paul's name and people are like, oh, I know that guy. Or you say Buzz Electric and people are like, oh, he's the best electrician. You want to use him.
Yeah.
He's known by name, not just by his work.
Yeah, it was interesting because after the interview, I went to his lodge. He's a part of the Elk Lodge. And it was just interesting to see how blue collar interact. It was just a whole big room of guys who are electricians and plumbers and HVAC, all just drinking and hanging out. But a business was being done. I watched some kid walk up to him and was like, "Are you hiring?" And so he did an interview. And then some guy walked up and was like, "Hey, I have a billboard I need you to fix. You're the electric guy, right?" And so business was being done at this lodge. It was kind of cool. A couple of things that were interesting for me with the interview was how quickly, and I noticed this with a couple other interviews that we've done so far, how quickly business ramps up. There's a lot of times people don't really think that their idea is a good idea, and then they try it. And the next thing you know, in a year's time, they already need employees or something like that. It's really quick.
Something that was super intriguing was that how, not to spoil it, but how Paul was able to make his business where he was able to be around family and not a day-to-day thing. He can make his own schedule. That was intriguing to me.
Yeah, that's it's common. It's a common things I've heard about people. They would like to take their time back.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do the whole 9 to 5. And if they're doing the 9 to 5, it's their 9 to 5, So what I like to do is to talk a little bit of the MBA program that I'm doing and kind of tie it into some of these interviews. With this one, my brother runs a small company. I think there's about 3 or 4 people under him or something like that. It's not that big, but that's exactly what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for companies that are under $3 million a year. They still have the original owner. It still has that entrepreneur spirit. It just super interests me because a lot of people have these great ideas, but they just don't know how to get started. And so on the MBA side of things, one of the things that I learned on that one is just how important your brand name is. You'll hear in the interview, Paul talks about how it's his face. He's Buzz Electric, right?
Yeah, he is the face of the company.
Right.
You can't hear Paul Briscoe's name without associating Buzz with that.
Yeah. And it's super important because like he's the brand. Like when people want Buzz Electric, they want Paul to go be there. And if he hires a guy and that guy shows up, they don't want him. They want Paul. He's the brand.
That's who they want.
Right. And so Paul's been very good at like making sure that his staff maintains that brand by, you know, cleaning up after themselves and things like that. But that's my MBA highlight, is that brand recognition is a big deal. So unless we have any more insights, if we can get right into the interview.
Okay, let's go into the interview.
So let's dive into this conversation that I had with Paul. He's the owner of Buzz Electric. And afterwards, me and Becky will talk about what we learned and things like that. Hey, Paul. How are you?
Good.
So we're talking to Paul. He's one of the founders of Buzz Electric, right?
Yep.
We're talking about Paul and how he started kind of his business. So I had a couple questions. The number one question I had was what inspired you to start this business?
Working a 9 to 5 with a normal standard company, you just kind of feel like a number. And especially in this industry, you're expected to work a lot of hours. So I wanted to change that to, with having 3 children, being divorced, it was important to me to put the kids' schooling so I could change my hours to suit the kids. And then all my employees as well. I let them pick and choose their hours for the most part so that they can be there for their kids as well.
That's just pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I recently left a job and it was because of that. Like sometimes you don't quit companies, you quit leaders.
Yeah,
so
essentially, yeah. And I've worked for 3 big companies here. One was 10 years, and the other one was 10 years, and the other one was like 6 weeks. But yeah, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm done.
Yeah, and all of those were electrical, right?
Yeah,
like
all electrical, yeah. But I just wanted to, get the kids on the bus. Those little things that we didn't get when we were kids. We were just like, parents left. We walked to school. We got home. We sat at the front door waiting for them to get home and drank out of a hose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that. So I'm like, I want to work between these hours and these hours when they're in school. And then I can sometimes take the day and go into school and bring cupcakes. Some days, tomorrow, I have the whole day off to take Ben. I'm going to school with Ben. We're doing an evaluation with his teacher. And then I have my mediation. Tuesday, again, I'm taking the whole day off. And I'm taking Ben in for his evaluations for autism and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. I can schedule my whole life around my kids instead of I have to schedule my kids around my job.
Yeah. So the main motivating factor for starting the thing was the freedom of life.
Yeah.
Instead of being a number, instead of a corporate.
Yeah. It's been nice.
What was the first aha moment you had that you knew that this could work, running this business?
It's kind of the first month where we didn't have a lot the first month, and then all of a sudden it picked up. We started in May. By June, July, I was looking to hire someone. Like, holy smokes. I thought it'd be like 2-3 years before I would need help. But we started picking up so much work, 0 advertising. It was all word of mouth, and it was all my old customers from all my prior. So with our advertising, we put my face in all the advertising, so people knew where I went. A lot of my customers with the other companies would ask for me specifically. And the second they said, "Oh, he doesn't work here anymore," I'm like, "Well, where'd he go?" "Well, we're not going to tell you that." So I just put my face on everything: the business cards, the billboards, if you look in the Beacon, any of my ads has my face. That way people knew where I went.
It's a pretty good idea.
And within a month, it was like, oh crap, I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah.
And then when I partnered with this HVAC company, I got all their work as well. So it was like, we're drowning. I think in the first year we did 400,000.
Wow.
And we started.
Did you expect that? Like, what did you expect going in? Did you expect 400,000 or?
No, I thought it was going to be a struggle. I'd probably work 2-3 days a week, maybe. I thought it was going to be a struggle, and it was quite the opposite. And from that, within the first year, we bought new trucks. I bought a scissor lift. I bought, and then we bought this building and all that. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting to be like starting and thinking like, well, hopefully. And then the next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm running a marathon here trying to keep up.
So I'm going to stay at Home Depot all day and I'm going to be like, we can come help you, you know? Like I was ready and I was like, I need help. I need to help. And within the first year, I had 2 employees.
Wow.
And then we've slowed down from that point. I've gotten out of this. Now I'm picking and choosing my work. I'm not doing the same. We'll take anything. There's a lot of work. We're like, nah, we're good.
Oh, so you did start with like anything came across?
Anything, electrical, speakers, cameras. We were doing anything, just be busy. And then I was like,
and now you can be a little bit more picky.
And now we're really doing residential. We're mainly doing commercial because it pays way more. So
that'd be interesting to like get into, like just like the way that you can decide if this is a good job or not. You know, like is that hard to do? Do you guys just have like when I'm sure you advertise a specific thing, right?
Yeah.
But people come in and ask probably for things that you don't do. What kind of like is a deciding factor for you to be like, yeah, we could do that?
Well, most stuff like security requires licensing.
Oh, okay.
And so but the nice thing is I am in with other companies that do that. So we can be like, well, I got you the job, so we'll pull the wire for you and we'll make 50%. And then you finish it off and make the other 50%. And then we both make money. And they do the same thing. They'll bring us in like, man, we're drowning. They had us go to Carbondale and install blinds, motorized blinds. Like, well, you're slow, we're slammed, we'll bring you in.
Yeah.
Okay. And we spent 3 days up in Carbondale hanging blinds. We made like 10 grand on this job. Wow. They made like 80,000 on this job for hanging motorized blinds.
And they didn't do much, right? They
did all the programming.
Okay.
And they did all that. This house had a server in it, like a full rack that came out. It was cool.
4 blinds.
Well, for the whole house automation.
That's
the whole
probably
house is automated.
One of the parts of the automation.
All the lighting, the sound system, the TVs, the projectors, the movie theater room. This is probably like a $25-30 million home. So
some people have too much money.
Yeah, and the guy was a prick. We got magic erasers, clean, vacuumed. The homeowner was really rough. He was very particular about the cleanliness and our shoes, wearing booties.
Yeah.
But it's part of the job.
So even though it was kind of a surprise and you kind of grew pretty quickly, and it was kind of just, it looks like you filled a need, apparently, right? What was what was unexpected challenges getting a business started? Like, if somebody wanted to do something like this, right? If there's somebody that wants to be an electrician, right, and wants to start their own thing, what's some things that they should kind of think about when they get started?
The industry, making sure you're going into the right industry. I mainly focused residential when we started. I didn't want to do any commercial, industrial, any of the big stuff because it was just nerve-wracking. Plus, it takes so much more time. Most of the residential stuff, you're in and out real quick. Commercial, it's
a full project.
Yeah, you park in the same parking spot every day. You eat lunch in the same spot. It's not really ideal for what I like. I really like service work. You show up, you fix it, you go. You show up, you fix it, you go. But over time, we've picked up commercial, and now we're doing a lot of commercial. We have 3 banks alone that we service on the whole Western Slope. So we drive from Moab to Durango. Our territory is huge.
Wow. And there's only a few of you, right?
I got 2 employees.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's a big territory for 3 people, right?
Yeah, and usually I do the traveling, so that way everything goes.
Oh, you keep your team here, local, and then you go out and do the bigger stuff.
Yep.
That's gotta be fun.
I like it. It's kind of fun. I get to see some of the prettiest country during the summer, during the winter, snow. We're in Crestview right now, and there's 6-8 feet of snow on the ground, just stagnant right now. So it's just cool to see the things I get to see.
When you're starting a company, though, like what are some of the hurdles that you have to keep in mind of? I know it's like financing.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Being able to buy a truck. So what we did is we had cash, and we bought everything up front. So I had everything was purchased. I owned nobody, nothing.
That's cool.
And that's how I want to start. I didn't want to have a big loan with the bank. I didn't want to have all this overhead. And I still really don't like all the overhead we have now. It's mainly the buildings. The only overhead I have. Everything I own. Everything I own. So every year we do the one big purchase. It's a break before taxes to get that tax break. But yeah, I don't like to owe anything. So that's the biggest thing is I started with a very mediocre truck, very few tools, and just made it work.
Oh, so you use the stuff, you just started with the things you had, right?
Yep.
And then just built from there instead of...
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Within our second year, I bought my truck. It was a much newer truck, and then we just have grown from there, just, little by little.
Okay, so I mean...
And again, no debt. That way I owe nobody nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have a $50,000 truck and a $30,000 box in the back. And it's like, man, that adds up. You got a monthly bill, like, nope, we own it all.
Which is interesting because a lot of business owners would do the opposite.
Yeah.
They like the money's not the problem. The money, they just... They have this thing in business where it's like you don't use your own money. You just get investments or borrow other people's money, and then everybody's focused on the month end. It's like, I owe a bunch, but it doesn't matter. If you look at the month end, I have more money than I started with. So who cares, right?
Which that makes sense. But with this industry, and when I started, it was in the middle of COVID. Next month, is there going to be work?
Yeah.
I don't want to have that big debt. So we started with a $4,000 truck with, I think, $2,000 worth of stickers on it and the tools that I had. And then within a couple months was like, all right, cool. I started stocking the truck and I started buying wires, started buying bigger, more and more and more until now I have an overflowing shop of stuff. And I got 4 trucks and a scissor lift and 2 trailers and like, crap.
But you found some like lucrative ways of using some of that stuff. Like you've been renting out your scissor lift and like
trailers. I have an unmarked truck that we rent out sometimes. I'm looking for a big boom truck right now so you can boom up, So yeah.
That's an interesting thing to do too, the tools that you're not using, how can I have them make money for me when I'm not using it, kind of a thing.
They're collecting wasps, so you might as well make money.
Wasp.
Yeah.
How has the local community shaped your business?
So we have...
Because I know it's a small town, right?
Yeah, it's growing. That's the crazy thing is we're getting a lot of people moving in, especially from California. Texas is the biggest thing. But mainly it's word of mouth. I think it's the way I treat my customers. I try to memorize their grandkids' names, their dogs' names, things like that. So it feels more like a family business instead of just some corporation coming in, and just, we also keep our rates below everybody else. So we're not, and we really don't even advertise a rate. It's more some grandma needs a battery changed out. We're probably not going to charge for it. We're just going to help them out.
So as the community is growing, like how's that affecting your business? Like, I know that you said you already needed a couple people, but because it started as a small community, right? And so the business can be a kind of a small mindset. Yeah. But as the community starts to grow around you, like how is that like? How's that like screwing with your forecasts and like trying to figure out what to do in the future? Are you going to have to expand quicker because of the town, or are you still able to stay small and be able to service this entire community?
Yeah, it's kind of picking and choosing the work. There's a lot of people call asking, well, we have 300 homes going into a subdivision. We just want you to give us a price. No, thanks. I just turn down jobs where I know we're not going to be able to handle. Okay. I know our size. I know what we can and can't handle. So yeah, it's just basically a pick and choose, and a lot of customers, you can just pick it up on the phone usually. Well, no, we're good, but thank you. I appreciate the phone call, and we still try to be nice. And if you have one house you need done, we could do that. 300? No, that's a lot. There's crews here. That's who I work for that can handle stuff like that. Yeah. I don't want to do that. You're stuck doing the same thing. It's very cookie cutter. It's very mundane. I like what we do, where every day is different.
Specialized.
Yeah. Monday you're at an airport, boomed up over, 125 feet in the air. Tuesday you're at the mall fixing, a cell phone store in the mall. Wednesday you're at McDonald's fixing an air fryer. It's just cool, the versatility, and you're just moving around all the time. I don't like parking the same parking spot. I hate eating lunch in the same spot. It just annoys me. I did it for years. I don't want to do that anymore. Over it.
And I'm assuming that you recommend other companies to do larger jobs, and probably the same thing happens to you, right?
Yeah,
the larger companies are like, oh, we don't do specialized. Here's a guy that can do the specialized.
Or we're just too busy. There's one company here, a really big company, that's booked out 5 years right now.
Oh, so
they will take no more work for the next 5 years.
Wow.
So they're just handing out names like, oh, appreciate it,
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
They're big. They have their station from every town has one of their. They're really, really, really big company.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
But I don't even consider them competition because we don't do the same industry. They don't do service. They don't do any residential. They do big jails, big stuff.
Interesting.
So
what's one of your favorite success stories?
Of my company?
Yeah.
I think it was in the very beginning. One of my older customers, she'd been asking for me. I've been working for her for years. Big house. She wanted to help start the company. So she asked, well, what can you do that, would be a lot of money? I don't know. She's like, well, my service is only 200 amps. I'd like to go bigger. Okay, well, how big do you want? I was like, well, you got to call the power company. I don't know how big, they'll let you go. She found out 600 amps.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you need to understand, it's like $45,000, $50,000. She's like, okay, you want cash check?
Wow.
And that was, within the first month, we had a $50,000 job.
Wow.
Holy. And she still calls every other month for service. She has rental houses. She has a cabin in Marble. She has all kinds of assets. And so she's always just keeping us busy.
Wow. And that just came out of nowhere, huh?
Yeah. She's just like, I want to help you guys out.
Wow.
What?
Did you know her beforehand?
Oh, yeah. She'd been a customer of mine for years and years.
Okay.
She still is. She came, when we were playing St. Patrick's Day, she showed up to one of our shows.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's multi-millionaire. See a dumb guy playing bagpipes. Thanks. She's awesome. I love her to death.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was just really threw me off. You want to spend that much money on? There's nothing wrong with your service. You don't need any more power. Yeah, but it'd be nice to help you out, and it just feel good to have more power.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
What's one misconception people have about your industry? What's something that people you find yourself correcting people a lot when they think about what you do?
Well, electricians are known for being super, super, super messy. And that's something with my company, that every truck has a vacuum, brooms, dustpan. I am anally particular about us leaving things cleaner than we have full stand-up vacuum. We have stuff that most people don't have, let alone other electricians. We're very, very clean. We have magic erasers, wipies, glass cleaner. Don't leave fingerprints. Don't, that's always my biggest pet peeve is really? What a mess. They paid you how much an hour? Ooh, so I think that's my biggest thing for me.
I think that's the good thing about leading a company and having this kind of OCD thing is that you're no.
Yeah.
You're doing it my way. I don't like leaving a house gross. All the plates need to be level.
Yeah. Everything, everything how you would want it in your house. The term I hate the most is can't see it from my house. You're going to leave it that way? I just can't do that.
Yeah. So in the personal and fun question side, what's one thing that you do daily that helps you stay focused?
I barely sleep. My ADHD and OCD, I think all night long. I'll wake up at 2 and I think and think and think. And then by the time I get to that job or that, whatever I'm doing that day, I've already figured it out in my head.
Oh, really?
So I'm already prepared. I'm already know exactly what I need. So a lot of the hard stuff we do, it sucks I don't sleep much, but I've already figured out how and who, and there's a lot of math involved with electrical. So on a single run of conduit, you can only have 360 degrees of bends. And if you're running 300 feet, you have to figure out how to minimize all your bends. And that's something that middle of the night, I will sit there with a pad of paper and design and figure out. And
that gets you going?
Oh, yeah. Then I'm excited. Like, I figured it out. All right, cool. Let's go.
Can I start early? Can I go right now? I know
that's the nice thing. I'm the boss. So
Yeah.
I can be late or I can...
Yeah.
My guys, when we've been staying in Crestview, they take their own truck. And I leave when I want to leave, which is usually super early. And then they show up,
You're already half done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a big job, but I'll figure it out and go, I got to go get back. I got to get this done. That's just, for me, that's kind of how I work is I'll ponder on it, sleep on it, and I'll have it all figured out by morning. And I have everything ready versus trying to figure it out on the job.
Yeah. Being related, I have the same kind of issue.
Yeah.
Like if I have a business proposition, that's all I do all night. I'm just dreaming about it. I'm just constantly like, and then I have it memorized in my head and I go, okay.
And you assume everyone else does the same thing. You're like, you didn't think about it all night? Why not?
Yeah. Wait, hold on. You just showed to work?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You went to sleep? What does that mean? Yeah.
You overthink every screw, nut, bolt. Huh.
If you weren't running this business, what would you be doing?
I'm sure working for somebody else.
Doing the same thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I haven't worked in years. I love what I do.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's the nice thing.
Some people, either that's like a bullcrap kind of answer, or some people like super believe it. And like a lot of times, like people are like, you're a workaholic.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say, you know what? It takes all types of people to make a world. You know, there's some lazy people. There's some workaholics. Leave me alone. Like, this is what I do.
I'm happy.
The world needs these people. They need workaholics.
And I'm happy there. I enjoy it. I don't get up in the morning going, oh my God, I got to freaking put shoes on and got to wear. I love it. I look forward to it. And again, I get to pick my customers. So I get to see some of the most awesome customers, and they've been my customers for years and years and years and years. So it's just phenomenal. You get to go back, and so I haven't worked in a long time.
So what's the weirdest request you've gotten from a customer?
I guess during COVID, the thing that kept us the busiest were those freaking bidets.
Bidets?
Yeah, they're just like a toilet seat add-on thing.
You think that's not electrical, but
every single
think that would be dangerous if it was.
Well, if you think about it, they don't have to be. But do you want cold water? So they plug in, so they heat the water up first.
Oh my
But
gosh.
every customer is like, yeah, if you want, you can try it out. Like,
you'd think that the warm water would be worse than the cold water, but
I don't know. I've never tried it. But again, it's weird that people are like, yeah, if you want to hang out and try it out, not really. But thanks.
But here's the thing, right? Like, if people want it and they're willing to pay, it's kind of like, all right, I guess we're in the bidet business, right?
Yeah, we did hundreds during COVID because of the whole toilet paper shortage.
Oh, yeah, toilet paper shortage.
Everyone's buying these freaking $3,000 bidets.
Oh, my gosh.
Paying us $1,000 to put an outlet in for them.
It still seems dangerous. An outlet next to the toilet?
Plumber, another $1,000, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we GFI protect. It's all up to code.
Okay.
But still, it's one of those like, I'll buy toilet paper. I'm good. A lot of it in our industry, we get these property service companies, and we show up to the property service company. They give us a key. Say, okay, go to this address, and blah 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 is not working. Well, people are living there, so you go into their houses, and usually they're at work. So you get to see their house when they're not really expecting people. So you get to see all kinds of weird stuff in their house, or like, oh, by the way, there's a dog. Oh, crap. Oh, jeez. So we've had a lot of that too. Knock on the door. We have a lot of rules on that one too. Like, but we've experienced a lot of weird things on that one.
I remember you had some requests in the early times where they would ask you to like move a plug 4 inches to the right, and then they didn't like it, they'd move it back, but it was the same cost and they didn't care, and so they just kept moving crap back and forth.
Yeah, we did a big cabin for a guy, and he would show up drunk. He had a pilot that would fly him in with a helicopter. He would just show up, he would just big, huge 10,000 square foot cabin, and he'd be like, man, it'd be nice to have a little pillow right here to set a beer on, so we'd cut the concrete, bring an outlet over, build this big thing out of rock and wood, gorgeous. And you show up the next time like, what the hell is that? Get rid of that thing. Rip it right back out.
Wow.
A month later, show up. You know what'd be nice? Like,
coat hanger.
Yeah.
A coat rack. Middle of the field.
He was a handful. And then he's building another one like Oklahoma. He wanted us to do too. Like, we're not licensed in Oklahoma. I'm not driving to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
To do it took us 9 months to build a stupid cabin. Like, that would have been like a week thing.
It'd be interesting just to get that guy drunk and he's
always drunk.
No, potential business, right? He gets another crazy idea. Boom.
Well, it's still standing. He hasn't been to it. He just keeps building them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he is just that guy. And you're like, well, whatever you want, sir. And then at a certain point, you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. It was nice because there's no cell phone reception up there. It was kind of really nice to have that little pause of life. But yeah, he was nuts.
So in the closing questions, what advice would you give somebody who's starting out in this? Like if they're brand new, they just got out of school, they got their electrician's license and they want to get started, what would some advice be for that new guy?
Building clientele. That was my biggest thing, is just having the clientele already set up. And it wasn't even on purpose. It was simply I made my customers my friends. It was kind of weird. I felt like I was stealing the customers, when they start calling me, but it was simply, they just found me, and, but I kind of felt bad. Like, man, it's kind of crazy. I got half of my last company's work simply because they sent me. I was the face because I was always being sent, and I, didn't try for it, but, we had a bad fallout. We went under new ownership, kind of like we're talking yesterday, where we weren't producing the same numbers, and he was freaking out. So he was pushing us really hard and started treating us poor. So we all kind of quit. Like, oh, it sucks. So he hired a whole new crew of people, and they'd show up to my customers, and they're like, no, we're good. Showing up to little grandma, and he smelled like a cigarette. Like, come on, man. Like, you got to think of him as your grandma. I wouldn't want that nasty around, So that was really important to me, but that's the biggest thing, is having the clientele and customer set up to start is the biggest thing, because I don't know how you would start without having a good rapport with people in a small community like this. Sure, bigger cities, you should advertise and people just call the first number in the book.
And I found that your brand is like a major thing, right? Like, they know who you are, they know how you work, and so if you were to send somebody else to one of your jobs one day, they'd be like, I want Paul. Like, where's like? Well,
and I've trained all my guys in my way with cleanliness, with how you greet them at the door, how you take notes about their dogs or kids, or and then end of week we try to discuss that about, well, hey, blah blah blah, said our grandson is blah blah blah, so that way if they call me or something, I'm at least in on the conversation.
That's a good idea, because a lot of people, like, the brand ends with you, but if you move that brand to the actual company name, like, now everybody starts trusting the company like that instead of just you. And
then we got like magnets, and we, when we walk by their fridge, we pop one on the fridge. We put one on the electrical panels, like, a breaker trip. Oop, there's a sign with a phone number. I know exactly who to call versus.
Yeah, you put them on.
You open a phone book. The first one's AAA. Every company here is AAA.
Right. To get in
CCC and
top of the last guy, right?
And everybody calls the very first number at the top. I'm like, I'm not going to be AAA.
Asterisk.
We're electric. Shows
a guy getting shocked.
Yeah, there's like 7 or 8 in this city that are A service, AAAs or AAA.
You can probably put the magnets on their breakers or wherever they have like electrical problems, right? They go, oh man, this thing's broken. Hey, look, there's a magnet right here.
There's a phone number. Boop,
I remember
Paul, he was talking about my dog.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's a good idea.
So just little things like that, especially little, it's kind of a retirement community. So a lot of little old people, they just, once you build that trust with them, it's there, and that's that. They'll call you forever. They'll tell their church members about you. They'll tell you their kids, their grandkids, and so I always ask when people call me, hey, how'd you get my phone number? Oh, my grandma, like, oh, cool. It's rare I ever get Facebook or Google. Like, I almost never get those unless it's a big corporation looking for big service stuff, which is great too, but
So, where do you see your business in 5 years?
I'm kind of hoping we'll get a little bit bigger, but I really don't want to get crazy huge. I don't really want the stress. And 2, 3 of the kids might actually be old enough to be employed. So it just depends on them.
Family thing, huh?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought about changing the name from Buzz to Briscoe Electric and Briscoe and Sons. So that way, bring the kids into it.
I like that name.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to make it more family oriented. That's what I wanted in the beginning, but my partners,
yeah,
well, when we sell it, like I don't want to sell it.
Right, I'm gonna stay here.
So yeah, I don't know exactly, but yeah, I don't want to get crazy big. I've never had. I like to be on every one of my jobs. Yeah, I like to be on my jobs. I like to be with my customers. I like that side of it versus being a number and having a bunch of employees that are just numbers.
Yeah, it's good. Do you have any suggestions on who we should interview next?
Tina.
Okay, cool. That'd be awesome. We'll do that right after this. So, is there anything like if, let's say this thing takes off and people actually hear this, is there anything that you would like to say to potential customers that are listening to this interview?
They all know me. They know that I stand by, my word, and we do good work.
We do good work.
Yeah.
There we go. You should put that on a shirt. We do good work.
Have a cookout.
Yes, we do.
Cool. That's it. Thanks, Paul, for your insights on business, stuff like that. Again, I really like the storytelling and the kind of the insights of what it looks like, especially on the outside. It's really difficult for a lot of people to know what they have an idea or they have some skill set. They're getting out of school. Moving to that next step is always kind of nerve-wracking, and hearing some of these like stories kind of helps a little bit to like put people on the current path. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So welcome back. Now that you've all heard the interview, I just have to share my thoughts on the interview. Like, I know I said it before, but man, I am so impressed by Paul and where he came from. Like, I can't even imagine like going from a 9 to 5 and then being like, I'm done. I'm tired of somebody controlling me. I'm tired of being controlled. I just want to do my own thing. And then like how he just came from like the bottom to up and how he made this amazing company.
It was interesting. And I don't know if we're going to see this in the future with other companies, especially people that have skills like this and go from one business to your own business. But he was talking about how when he left, all the customers were looking for him. Again, brand name, right? Mm-hmm. Brand recognition. Yeah. So when he left, all the customers were like, where'd Paul go? And he was like, he's not here anymore. And they're like, where'd he go? We don't want you. Yeah. We want him. And he stole most of the customers. Yeah. Like he took them all over. I'm not going to say steal, but he took all the customers over. And so it'll be interesting in the future to see if other companies, like as we see this kind of thing, if that's kind of how they start. Like they're working at a company and then they leave and all the customers are like, I want that guy.
Yeah. That's because he makes an impression.
Yeah, he's good.
Like he goes in and he does his work. And I think that's a family thing because he talks about like how he goes in and he makes sure that like everything is better than how he left it.
Yeah.
And that's a family thing because he talked about being OCD. And I'm like, oh, wait, I see that. Because I don't just see it in him, but I see it in you.
Yeah.
And like I see it in our kids. Like there's certain things that like everybody has an OCD moment. And if Paul's is like, it's like one of those things that I've always taught my kids. It's like, leave something cleaner than when you found it.
Yeah.
Like when you go to somebody else's house. And that's what Paul does. Like he mentions how he has like the broom and the shop vac and you don't leave dust laying around.
Right.
Like you clean up your mess.
Yeah. Paul's OCD like me. Like you'll notice that he always faces the screws up and down. Yeah.
It's the little things that like bring Paul the customers.
Right.
Like you can say Paul's been out and then you have to have somebody else come and they're like, but you're not Paul. You didn't do what Paul did.
Right.
That's why the customers follow him.
Yeah. One thing that was interesting to me, they didn't talk about it much, but afterwards I did a tour of his facilities. He is very innovative. Like he sells garbage. Like for instance, he like makes sure that his like team gathers all of the copper cable and he gives them a bonus at the end of if they bring so much copper cable, and then he sells that copper cable. Or like he had a big spool of cable, and then when the cable was all gone, he had this big spool, and he turned it into a lazy Susan that you can put on things and it'll turn, and he rents that thing out.
That's crazy.
Or he has like these metal bars that he uses to bend cable that he's made out of garbage, and people are like, "Ooh, that's cool," and he rents them out. Like, and then another thing. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Another thing is that like he was renting scissor lifts and all these other things to like do his job, and then one day he was like, "F it, I'm gonna buy my own."
Yeah.
And so he bought his own, and then the neighbor company was like, "Hey, you have a scissor lift? Can I rent it from you?" And he's like, "Sure." Cha-ching. Like that entrepreneur spirit of like everything he can figure a way to make money was kind of interesting on my side.
Everything that he touches turns to gold. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Like I can have a certain electrician come out. Like I mentioned that, but they do a crappy job. And like, I think I've seen it because my favorite thing to do with Paul is to call and be like, "Hey, favorite brother-in-law." And it's always, "What?" And I'm always like, "Well, I have this. Can you come to Utah?" Like, and he comes and does work for us. And we've had other people come out, but then in the back of my mind, I think Paul's just not family, but I'd rather have Paul drive and come do the work for us because I know that the work is going to be quality.
Yeah.
And instead of like using a local business that I don't know anything about, and then it makes you iffy. And even like they come and do the work and give you an estimate, but I'm still calling Paul and be like,
double check it for me.
Double check this. Is this like legit?
Yeah.
So it's like one of those
I think
things.
I think that goes into that blue collar spirit. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of blue collar people, you'll notice they have so much pride in what they do.
They do.
Like you'll see these people that as you're driving, they point at houses and they're like, "I did the cement work over there. I put the cabinets in on that house." Like they're really prideful of their stuff, right? And so because of that pride, they normally really do a good job. I mean, just an example of this, we should find this guy. The garage door in our house had that problem. Mm-hmm. And so we hired a guy from a company and he tried to charge us a ton of money.
Yeah.
So then we found this other guy who is a very small, it's just him and his dad doing it. And that guy did it for $150, but the quality work that he did was amazing because he's very like proud of what he does, right? And so I think that comes a little bit from there. But I think from now on I might start looking to smaller companies to do work.
I like to look into smaller family-owned businesses.
Right.
Because then you're like taking care of each other.
Right.
And I think that goes back into because like what Paul does, he makes sure that like his guys are taken care of and they're doing, as he mentioned, like they do the in-town businesses and takes care of like all the in-town businesses and make sure that they're home every night. And even though he's a family guy himself, but he would rather travel and do the far away stuff to make sure that his guys are home at night.
Yeah.
And that they're home taking care of their families and they're doing things with their families like he does.
Yeah. And one thing that was really interesting, and I don't know if this interested you as much as me, was the fact that like, I always had this picture in my mind that like big companies come in and snuff out the little guys, like Walmart comes in and gets rid of everybody. But in his like reality, like he's picking and choosing more specialized work that big companies don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so the companies will come in and be like, "We have 375 houses to do." And Paul will be like, "I'm not going to do that much."
Yeah. No thanks.
Here's the big company. They'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And vice versa. These people will call these big companies and be like, "Hey, I need this specialized like thing put in." And they're like, "We don't do that. But we have a phone number of a guy.
Yeah.
We'll send, we'll forward you over to them and then they come up." And so there's like this little, community.
But he's always available because he mentioned that company that's like doing the cookie cutter homes and they're like 5 years out. What happens when you call that company and they're like, we have no availability for like 5 years?
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, but there's these other companies And being the small business makes it, because that's something that like a bigger business, like, hey, call Buzz Electric and they can get you in like next day, or they can come out right now. Like there's not a ton of waiting.
Yeah, and there's a lot of specializations, because when I went to when I went down to the lodge, there was another guy there that ran another electrician company, and I was like, uh-oh, competition. But Paul was cool with that guy.
Yeah.
Because they do different kinds of electrician work, right? And they swap and they help each other out. So it's a really cool dynamic.
It is.
Kind of bringing it back to the MBA concepts. One of the themes that I saw a lot was the owning of a company. There's a lot of grind. There's a lot of work. Paul's working really, really hard, has long hours, but he gets to choose those hours. Yeah. It's a lot of hours, but like he was saying, he was able to take a half day to go take cookies to his kid's school or whatever, right?
And he was able to take the whole day off just to be with his son, Ben, to go for that testing.
Mm-hmm.
And working a 9 to 5, he wouldn't be able to do that because they're like, no, you're scheduled here, here, and here. But being his own business, he can take the day off.
Yeah. It's a big grind, but it's his grind.
Yeah.
Like he gets to decide what to do and what it is. And so I know it's going to cut into, costs and things like that. One of the things that worries me about Paul's company is I'm not sure if I see a lot of CFO stuff being happening. Like, each project, where is it sitting on your average of costs, mm-hmm. right? Like I know a lot of his work, he'll just stop by Home Depot, pick up a bunch of parts and then go do it. But it's like, what are the overhead costs here? What are the period costs? What are, and I'm not sure if he's keeping track of that or being very diligent with that, because he's such a small company and because he's only 1 or 2 people, that they just shoot from the hip and do things. And he knows what parts are good, so he goes and buys those parts. But as you get bigger, you start to think, well, hold on. I know this part's not as good, but it's $10 cheaper.
Yeah.
It'll cut out my end costs and things like that and bring my ROI up. And so one of those things, I don't know, if Paul transitions to a larger company, I'm not sure if that's something that he's going to possibly need, is somebody that's going to be helping him with budgetary costs when it comes to things like that. And I know he doesn't like to be held down to a budget.
Yeah.
But,
he just likes to go and get, but like he did mention too, all of his trucks are completely stocked. It's that's something that I feel like he buys a lot and then he keeps his trucks stocked. So he's not having to stop at Home Depot every day or stop at Lowe's every day and go and buying stuff.
That brings up a good point though. He said that his trucks were paid off. He doesn't have any debt, right?
Yeah.
Which is odd.
That is odd for a company not
it's
to have
odd for
debt.
A company, because Paul that's his principle. He's not going to go against that. He wants to maintain no debt.
Yeah.
Which is commendable, but it stifles growth, because there's a big thing in MBA world that talks about don't use your own money.
Yeah, it's go borrow and pay back.
Yeah, don't use your own money. Use somebody else's money to make money, right? And so, for instance, if he were able to get 15 trucks and get a bigger staff, he grows faster, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's in a happy niche. He just wants to stay small town. He wants to stay this small. He wants to do this stuff. So being the debt-free thing will probably be good, because he could just walk away from it, right?
Yeah.
And not have to owe anything.
Yeah. Even if he wanted to cut back and just be him, if it came down to it to where I know the business makes a lot of money, but if he wanted to come down to where it was I need to step back and just let it be me for a while, he's able to do that because he doesn't have any debt. He doesn't have anybody to pay back, and everything comes in.
I think there's positives and negatives, but from the MBA standpoint, it's opposite of what they teach you.
Yeah.
They teach you, if you want to scale, you want to get this thing going and you want to get it going good and you want to scale up and you want to make as much money as you possibly can for a couple purposes. Number one, you have a large company where your income is higher than your out, but your income is much larger now because you have a lot more trucks, you have a lot more people. But on the other side, the flip side of the thing is that, and I don't think this is what he wants to do, but the MBA teaches, if you can get this thing to scale up, you can sell it.
Yeah.
So, and then the debt goes with.
Yeah. And that's not what he wants to do. He doesn't
I don't think
want
he
to
wants
sell.
to do that.
No.
And so, but the MBA teaches that if you're wanting to scale up a business, this is what you do. Don't use your own debt. Go get somebody to finance it. Use somebody, like, get a board of directors. Get somebody that's going to give you money. Go get loans. Get your friends and family to pay. Whatever you have to do to get other people's money. And then you give them a dividend at the end, like you pay them some money at the end for giving you money. Whatever you've made profits, you get to share it with them.
Yeah.
And then as it scales up big, you get to a certain point, like you're making $10 million a year, you sell it off to that big guy, that big company, you get $24 million and you walk away.
See, but that's not what he wants to do, because he did mention that he wants to eventually, maybe one day down the road, to change the name from Buzz Electric to Briscoe's and Sons. So that means, like, he's got 3 boys.
Yeah.
4 boys. I mean, he's got not 3 boys. He's got 4 boys. What if one of them, wants to be an electrician like him? And eventually when Paul gets a little bit older and he gets to where he can't work, he's got one of the boys that can take it over, and then it's already there, like the Briscoes and Sons.
Right.
So, I mean, the name just keeps going. I mean, but that's something down the road.
So if we in Utah decided to start a company like his, would we be able to do that?
Yes and no, maybe. Like, we'd have to have something from the ground up. We would have to have the clear idea, and we would have to whiteboard it out and have, a clear idea of what we're doing, and make sure that we are asking the right people and keeping the positive feedback coming, and any negative feedback coming, not let that hinder us or distract us from a goal that we're trying to set.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest hurdles that we would have is we don't have a master electrician. So
we don't have the electrician.
It's really expensive to get started.
It would be.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest hurdle, would be either to get the education or to hire somebody with the education.
Yeah.
And I think the latter would be the most easiest for us, because I think you need to transition from, you need to work someplace as a journeyman to get to master.
Yeah.
And then you can leave. And so I would have to work somewhere and be an electrician for a bit. But if we want to start, we can start tomorrow by hiring a master electrician. But that seems like really expensive.
That's a lot.
And I don't know that field very well.
Who wants to get shocked all day long? That doesn't sound like fun. But that's just me. Who wants to touch the wires and be like, does this wire work? And if I touch these wires together, will it shock me? And, those kind of things.
So what resonated most with you on this interview? I know that you like the whole family orientated.
Well, not just the family, but
the boys might take it over one day. He gets to spend time with them.
But also I think it intrigued me how I saw a different side of Paul. There's the funny, goofy, Paul, but then you started talking about his business, and it was a complete 360. It was I worked a 9 to 5. Now I'm a business owner, and these are the people that I've brought in, and these are the people that followed me. And I have this lady that has invested so much money into my business. But it's there can be the goofy Paul, and then there's the serious businessman Paul. They're 2 different people. And it was very intriguing to me to see that and hear that, because I don't think that I understand what Paul does on a daily basis. Okay, he goes to work. He's an electrician.
Yeah.
But hearing him talking about his passion, it was so intriguing to me. It was an eye-opener. It made me have that much more respect for him than I already had.
Yeah. Did it change any ways that you're thinking about the way you do things?
Oh yeah. A lot. It's one of those things you have to get your name out there, and you have to get people to know you. And it's made me think about how you treat people. I've wanted to stop doing some of the things that I was doing, because then I think, oh, I have a namesake that I'm trying to keep going. Mm-hmm. And it just makes you think about your life and what you've been doing.
Yeah, one thing that was interesting about the conversation, and a little sneak peek into the next conversation, But how quickly people go from like starting a company and then you get that first customer and then the second one starts up and then the fifth one and then the 30th one. And then the next thing you know, you're overwhelmed with customers.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I would like to see Paul's business do well. I want to see kind of like the track of that because the growth, especially with using more pricey ways that he does things, I don't know how sustainable it is. Like how high does that peak go before he can't keep up, right?
Yeah.
And he's already talking about that. He had to hire a couple guys. Now he's starting to like pick and choose work because he's like, I can't do it all, right? But if he wanted to do it all, what would that look like, right? And so it's interesting.
It would look like Paul working 18 to 20 hours a day because he could do that. But that's part of him coming back to being like, no, my boys are getting older and I need to be with my boys.
It's really hard though with that name brand, you know?
It is.
Because you have two factors. Number one, they only want you. You're the guy, your face on the billboard, right? Mm-hmm. You're the guy and I heard that you were good. So I don't want your underling.
Yeah. I don't want somebody else. I want you.
But if you have too much work and you hire an underling, and even if you put the underling on the billboard with you, right? And that guy gets as good as you, what stops him from becoming a competitor? Yeah. Right?
It does. You have to think about that.
There's this thing in the NBA world where it's talking about like, maybe it's not even the NBA, maybe it's just something I read, where it's talking about give benefits and train people to be better. Train them so that they don't need this job, but pay them and treat them so well that they don't leave, right? But at what point does that become unsustainable and all of this stuff? It's like, so Paul's going to be, he's going to be the brand until he can figure a trustworthy, and this is why it's the family-owned business kind of thing works so good, is because you trust your brother, you trust your son, you trust your dad, right? Yeah. And so they're not going to run off and become a competitor. No. But it's really hard to get somebody, so you're always going to have somebody that's subpar to you working with you, and you're going to be the brand forever, right? So that's going to be a tough thing. It will be. So here's a question for you. Yeah. Now after this interview is over, and we kind of sneak peeked our way into the electrician world, who do you want to interview next? What kind of company would you be interested in
interviewing next? Yeah. Other small businesses.
Yeah. What kind of small businesses though? Because I'm thinking like maybe a painter, like somebody who owns a painting company, or
somebody that owns a cleaning business, or somebody that owns like a family-owned food business, or interesting. Has started a store from the ground up, like a convenience store from the ground up, like those kind of places.
I wonder if we can get like one of those Mexican marts or something. I'm sure the owner is still there, right?
Maybe. Or like, you know, living in Utah, and Spanish Fork used to be little, but you get out there and you like I said before, I'm a small business person. And so I go to the gas stations that are owned by families, not the big corporations.
Yeah, same here.
And so that would be like the person that you go to and be like, hey, how do you feel about doing this? And typically over the years, I've built that trust. And so maybe they'll say yes, maybe they won't. I mean, it's one of those things.
Well, you're a good salesman, so you'll be able to talk to them. I think in the realm of the electrician world, like that kind of world, I think a plumber, maybe a drywaller, maybe something like that would be interesting. Just to see how, like HVAC, plumbing, and electric, because they kind of like go together, right? Yeah. But you find another like family that does something like that, where they're not a big corporation, they're a small company, but they're working with electricians. Like just to see how that dynamic would be pretty cool to look at.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be.
So we're about it, right? That's about time.
Until next week.
So that's the podcast. Now, again, this podcast is mainly for me to document these things. And I know that it helps with people who are entrepreneurs who want to get started, but gives them a little bit of insight on what the entrepreneurial world looks like, what the first couple of years kind of look like, what to expect. And I really mainly aim my questions for that. It's like, hey, you started a business. If I wanted to do this kind of business, what do I expect that first couple of years, right? Or what should I worry about and things like that. So I try to aim my questions that way in the hopes that people are interested. So that way, if they wanted to start something, they can have a little bit of insights on it. But it's mainly for me. But if anybody listening to this has suggestions or feedback or whatever and saying, hey, maybe we should ask different questions, or if you guys have feedback on what the next companies we should be looking at, what's interesting on your side, please comment or whatever on this application.
Let us know what you're interested in, and that's what we can pursue and go after, like those kind of businesses.
And we already have about 15 of these reviews already done, but it'll give us more insight onto, is this interesting? What other things that would be interesting in your guys' eyes as you're kind of thinking about starting your own businesses?
Yeah.
Cool with that?
Perfect.
All right. That's the episode. Thanks, Becky, for being my lovely co-host.
Absolutely. It was fun.
Yeah, I think it was fun as well. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.